I am so excited to go downstairs and pick up a book and start reading, but I'm even more excited to spend time with you. Yay, you made it. I've been waiting for you. Hi, my name is Floss. This is the Grape Jelly Library where we love to talk about books. I am so glad you could join me. I always look forward to your visit. You know what? There really isn't a better video that I could do right now than what is my favorite book on the shelf. Thank you, Debbie, for this idea. So I have chosen a shelf. I have said nothing in this portion of the choosing because I want you to concentrate on these books. So I'm going to break away for a moment or two, show you the books, concentrate, focus, try to vibe with my personality and guess which book is my favorite. Here we go. Okay, I would like you to comment below. Let me know what you thought it was going to be. So I've counted the books on the shelf. This time there are 32 books on the shelf. I have not read all of them. I've read about 12 of them. I better get reading. I picked some of the books off of the shelf that, you know, they hit home. They were great reads and they will stay with me forever. But they're not necessarily my favorite. I'm going to show you the ones that I chose, and then maybe we can further narrow it down to what my favorite book on the shelf actually is. So, let me get the books. Okay, I got the books. Now, I'm going to start with this one. This one is not a favorite of mine at all, but I chose it because it was such a gripping, interesting story, and I think that anybody who reads it, they're going to be like, oh my God, what if that was me? What would I do? I can't even imagine what I would do. So I'm going to show you this book. I'm going to tell you just a little bit about it briefly. Let me lose the glasses. The story that I'm talking about is titled Disguised Blessings by Jeanne Callahan Trantel. This is the story about a husband and a wife who were an ideal couple. The husband was a stockbroker on Wall Street. As the story unfolds, we also discover that he was not only a stockbroker, but he was a stockbroker / bank robber. He got himself in a little too deep, and he thought that robbing banks was going to be the solution. He was able to pull it off for a little while until his secret was discovered. This is a true story, and Jeanne had to learn to walk away from that marriage, the love of her life, pick up the pieces, try to make a new life for her and her boys, and in doing so, she discovers that even in the hardest times, there is a blessing there lying somewhere. So I love this book. I read it probably about 4 or 5 Christmases ago, just right after Christmas, and I loved it. So if you don't know what to read and you're looking for something that's very gripping and is a true story, this is an excellent choice. I would recommend that to anybody. Okay, but it's not my favorite. Okay, it's like an honorable mention. Okay, I have 7 books in my lap. 6 of these books are heavy contenders. 1 is my favorite. I'm not going to say which one it is until I've gone through all 7 books. So let's start with The Devil in the White City by Erik Larson. He has written several books. This was the first book that I read that Erik wrote. It was my first introduction to his style of writing, and I've read this maybe 12 years ago, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I highly recommend it. The World's Fair, I believe it was, yes, 1893. Herman actually bought a building that was like city blocks long, and he used this building to create secret passageways so that when he murdered his victims, he can just throw the body like down a laundry chute and it would land in the basement, where there would be lime down there and other chemicals to, mask the odor of the deceased. He really tried to cover all the bases, and for a very long time he got away with it. This is an excellent book. I bring these books to you because Christmas is coming, and a lot of us are going to be getting Christmas money, and a lot of us are going to be getting books as gifts. And you know what? To receive any one of these books that I am going to mention would truly be a gift, because these are stories that will stay with you long after you have read them. I had followed this from beginning to end. Oh my goodness. I'm talking about Jodi Arias. This is Conviction, the untold story of putting Jodi Arias behind bars by Juan Martinez. Now, like I said, beginning to end, this is the story of Travis Alexander. Jodi met Travis at a business meeting, and she became obsessed with him. And even after they broke up and he, tried to get other girlfriends, Jodi was always lingering in the shadows. And there would be she lived in, California, and he lived in Arizona. So she would travel to his residence without him knowing, and he would be on a date with another girl. They'd be sitting on the couch looking at the Christmas tree, and Jodi Arias would be behind the tree, and they didn't even know it. Imagine sitting on your couch and there's somebody hiding behind your tree spying on you, and you don't even know they're there. She would climb in through the kitchen door, through the doggy door. Through the doggy door she would come in through, so that she would go undetected. This girl, she was dangerous. She is behind bars for life now. But if you follow the story, you'll know how fascinating this story was, and just how gripping and telling and absurd and shocking and disgusting. She really did a number on this poor gentleman, and it's unfortunate that he lost his life at her hands. And the way that he lost his life, I don't know that I have ever heard a murder story as telling and shocking as this one. But oh my goodness, like I said, I'm going to say it again for the third time, from beginning to end, because that is how gripping this tale is. And it's a true story. I call it a tale. I shouldn't have, because it's a true story, and it is absolutely mind-blowing. All right. Here's a book that I didn't think that I was going to like, and I absolutely loved. Oh my goodness. I loved it. A Confederacy of Dunces by John Kennedy Toole. It's unfortunate what happened to John Kennedy Toole. Very, very unfortunate. That breaks my heart. But I thought this book was going to be much like A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, and it is nothing like that. This book made me laugh so many times. I can't believe that. I thought I was actually going to dislike this book. But I loved it. The characters in here, the mother and the son. This is definitely a book I would reread twice. I don't usually read books 2 times, but I'm telling you, this one was so good, I would. There's so many, especially at the end when the mother is in her tattered nightgown and mother and son are not getting along at the moment. The things that he says to her, I don't know, they just made me laugh because I could just picture it so vividly. This is a brilliant story, brilliant, and I loved it so. Okay, how about this one? The Trial of Lizzie Borden by Cara Robertson. Looks like this. Now, We all know the story of Lizzie Borden, whether we know it in depth or we have just touched base with this story. But I wanted to know. Like, what was going through Lizzie's head and the court proceedings and all of that stuff. So I am going to say that it does pertain, obviously, to a lot of the court proceedings, because hence the word trial in the title. So if you are into like law and order, this is definitely a book for you. The story, again, is a gripping one. I love those stories that just like suck you right in and nothing else exists around you except for you and the book that you're reading. This is a good one to do that for you. This is definitely a great form of escapism. So if you don't know what to read or you want to ask for a book, this would be a great book to ask for. I recommend it. 3 more books and we are done. I Heard You Paint Houses, Frank the Irishman Sheeran, and Closing the Case on Jimmy Hoffa, updated and with a new epilogue by the author Charles Brandt. This is the #1 true crime bestseller. I read this 10 years ago maybe. It was at a point where I didn't really know a lot about Jimmy Hoffa. I've heard of his name a lot, but I didn't know anything about the man, so I thought, let me find out about him. In reading this book, it turns out I really, really like Jimmy Hoffa. I'm a fan of Jimmy Hoffa. I really, really am, and it's unfortunate what happened to him. He was a good guy, for sure. I've seen some documentaries on this kind of stuff, but oh my goodness, this book is top notch. I don't know that it gets any better than this book. It is so detailed, so informative. Again, I don't reread books, but this is definitely a book that I would revisit. Nothing else exists, nothing else matters except for you and this book. And don't we just love a book that can do that for us, that can just take us away? Love this book so, so much. Will it be my favorite? How about this? I have to block some of it out. It is a statue, but, you know, we're just not going to go there. The Monster of Florence, a true story by Douglas Preston with Mario Spezzi. So I'm just going to go like that, okay? So Douglas Preston fulfilled a lifelong dream when he moved with his family to a farmhouse in Florence. Upon meeting the celebrated journalist Mario Spezzi, Preston was stunned to learn that the olive grove next to his home had been the scene of a horrific double murder committed by one of the most infamous figures in Italian history. The Monster of Florence fascinated Preston, began working with Spezzi to uncover the serial killer who had ritually slain 14 young lovers and was never caught. Here's the true story of their search to find and confront the man they believe is the monster. And in an ironic twist of fate that echoes the city's bloody history, Preston and Spezzi themselves became targets of a bizarre police investigation. Okay, so the same lawyer that was representing in this book years and years and years later was also representing in the Amanda Knox trial. And I have to say, after reading this book and then years later following the Amanda Knox trial, it was fascinating to me to see just how little the Italian court system had actually changed. So this is an excellent book. If you're into that sort of thing, I recommend it. All right, and the last book that is in my lap is The Iceman, Confessions of a Mafia Contract Killer, by Phillip Carlo. Now, I read this maybe about 7 years ago, and it was, I think, late November, early December, and I didn't know what to listen to, what to read, so I got it free on YouTube. Phillip Carlo narrates it, and I am telling you, what a narrator. Woo, he is very, very, like, ambitious. He can bring this story home. He sells it. That's what I want to say. He really sells this story. I I loved it. I fell in love with it. So I was listening to this story every free second moment that I got, and I was even putting up Christmas decorations listening to this. And sometimes putting up all those lights and untangling, you might want to say a Christmas curse every once in a while, because sometimes it's too much and you get overwhelmed. But that did not happen while I was listening to this, because I was just so engrossed in this story. So I think my holiday decorating went up with ease. I even had to tell myself, because I was just getting too involved with it, I needed to take a break with it until after Christmas, because, or at least, for a good portion of the day, because I was becoming too involved in it, and that's not what Christmas was. I needed to listen to some Christmas music and get into the Christmas spirit, not the Mafia contract killing spirit, but we got through it. We did the thing. Excellent book. What's his name? Richard Kuklinski. There we are. Richard Kuklinski. So out of all of these books, which book do you think was my favorite? The Jimmy Hoffa one? I'm going to tell you. It's The Iceman. It's The Iceman. Confessions of a Contract Killer. Phillip, Carlo brought this story home for me. If I would have read the book, I would have been as captivated, but Phillip, Carlo narrating it, put it into orbit, knocked it into another league. It would be very hard for me to find a book that's going to surpass this one. I mean, well, I shouldn't say that, because I have read my fair share of books that I have absolutely fallen in love with. This is one of them. It's a shame that all these true events had to happen in order for such a fantastic book to come about, but this is it. This is my favorite book on that shelf. It's always going to be my favorite book on that shelf. Maybe if Jimmy Hoffa was on a different shelf, that would be it, but when I had to, when I have to weigh these two out, I'm going to have to go with this one. I just am. It's phenomenal. Phenomenal. Whatever you are reading, I hope you are finding absolute book bliss in it. Until we meet again, know that I love you. Don't let those bad days win. And when you dream, make sure you're dreaming big.